Researchers, academics, experts, policymakers and government representatives will gather at the Gallagher Convention Centre in Johannesburg tomorrow for the National Water and Sanitation Indaba. The two-day event is a follow-up to the Water Summit held in January of last year. The Indaba is expected to focus on issues related to water security and water provision. This week, a Water Imbizo in Pretoria agreed on the need for a mindset shift regarding sustainable water management. A gathering to address water challenges and discuss sustainable water management. Critical challenges facing the country's water and sanitation sector include a lack of skills, aging infrastructure, as well as poor maintenance. Rapid population growth also contributes to higher waste production and pollution. To expand the conversation, we speak to Dr. Sean Phillips, Director General of the Department of Water and Sanitation. Dr. Phillips, a very good evening to you. Thank you for your time. As tomorrow's gathering gets underway, what's to be expected?
Good evening, and good evening to all your viewers. We had a similar gathering in January 2024. That was soon after we'd released the results of our blue, green and no drop assessments of the performance of municipal water and sanitation systems. And you might recall that those assessments indicated that there'd been a decline in the performance of municipal water and sanitation. So we invited all the municipalities which are responsible for the water function in South Africa. They're called the Water Services Authorities. We invited them to a summit in January 2024, and we discussed the results of those assessments and the causes of the decline in performance. And we agreed on a number of resolutions as to what we all need to do to address the situation, in particular what all the water services authorities need to do. So the focus of this summit starting tomorrow, or Indaba, is to look at the progress that the municipalities have made in implementing all those resolutions which are aimed at improving the situation.
We know that nearly half of South Africa's drinking water systems fail to meet basic safety standards, and we also cannot ignore the fact that water shortages are damaging the economy, threatening the country's stability, for one. What outcome are you looking to achieve with this Indaba? I mean, you speak about agreeing on resolutions for the last Indaba, but in terms of tangible outcomes, what are you looking at?
The tangible outcomes that we want to achieve is, firstly, to agree on what progress has been made and what still needs to be done on the last resolutions. Secondly, to agree on what else needs to be done. Do we need to add new resolutions? There have been developments since that summit in January 2024. There's been new reforms which have been initiated by ourselves, National Treasury and the Presidency, aimed at restructuring the way municipal water services are done, and we'll be discussing those reforms. We would like to achieve a high level of consensus between ourselves as the national government and the municipalities as to what needs to be done, and agree on key deliverables and timeframes for implementing those things.
It's been argued that it's all well and good to have the summits, meetings and the panels and the talk shops, but without concrete action, Africa's water crisis still persists. South Africa's water crisis still persists in municipalities. How are you going to ensure that South Africans have access to clean water and sanitation, and that, you know, we're not looking at the infrastructure backlogs and all of those challenges that are threatening access to water?
There are lots of parties involved or stakeholders involved in providing water in South Africa. For example, we as the National Department are responsible for the large dams and for regulating the sector. There are the 7 water boards which take raw water and treat it and supply it to municipalities. And then there's 144 different municipalities which are responsible for delivering water services. So with so many different stakeholders involved, it's important for us to have this kind of meeting so that we can agree on things, so that we can be aligned. That's quite critical if we're going to get the implementation that you're talking about and the right kind of implementation done. So if we can achieve what we're aiming to achieve and agree on what everybody needs to do within the timeframes, then over the next year we will continue, as we did last year, to monitor implementation, and that will assist us to ensure that things are actually done and that water services improve.
We heard President Cyril Ramaphosa speaking quite a great deal about water in his State of the Nation address. With budget usage, I mean, how are you allocating those funds to ensure that these goals are met?
Well, the first point to make in that regard is that water in South Africa is not funded from your income tax or from VAT. It's funded from revenue from the sale of water. It's supposed to be a financially self-sustaining function. So it's not largely funded by budgets from the national government or my department's budget. Municipalities are supposed to raise revenue from the sale of water and use that money to maintain and operate their water services and to pay the water boards for the treated water that they buy from water boards. Water boards in turn use that revenue from municipalities to treat the water and to maintain and develop their infrastructure. And similarly, the water boards pay us for the water that they take out of the dams, and we use that money to maintain and operate the dams. So one of the key priorities is to make sure that water is paid for across the value chain. That's the main way in which we can ensure that water is properly maintained, water infrastructure is properly maintained and operated. And in that regard, a major focus will be on reducing non-revenue water at municipal level, which is key to improving the financial sustainability of the whole value chain. We do have some infrastructure grants which we allocate to municipalities to address infrastructure backlogs, and other departments do as well. But that is not the main source of funding to improve water and sanitation. The main source of funding is revenue from the sale of water.
What would you say are some of the other big challenges in this ecosystem that you describe when it comes to achieving the goals?
One of the main challenges which we're going to be focusing on with all the municipalities there is the fact that although water is supposed to be a financially self-sustaining function, currently there's no mechanism to ensure that revenues from the sale of water are used by municipalities for the water function. So currently municipal councils can vote for those revenues from the sale of water to be used to fund anything else apart from water. And that's one of the main reasons why the maintenance of municipal water infrastructure has been neglected for a long time, because municipalities have been using that revenue for other functions. So addressing that institutional problem at municipal level is going to be a focus area. And we're going to be discussing reforms which are being promoted by ourselves, the National Treasury and the Presidency, which are aimed at creating new institutional arrangements in municipalities where those revenues are ring-fenced for the water function, and where the head of the Water and Sanitation Department in the municipality has full responsibility over all the management activities that are required to deliver the water and sanitation service.
Yeah, very well. Thank you so much for speaking to us this evening, Dr. Sean Phillips, Director General of the Department of Water and Sanitation.